Hello? Hello? Oh my God, this is the Dawg Pound. And I'm Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dawg, and this is going to be one hellaciously great show today. I've got some of the superstars of the industry on the broadcast today, and including now I don't know what number one Honda dealer in the universe, Brian Benstock. What's your claim to fame this month?
No claim to fame. I'm just a car dealer trying to navigate uncertain times.
just back from setting Europe on fire, Brian Benstock, a premier thought leader in the business. And speaking of thought leaders, let's go north of the north border. My good friend Jason Harris. Jason, how's Matador doing today?
Doing good, Jim. We're automating as many processes as we possibly can for dealers across the country. It's been an absolute blast.
Fantastic. I appreciated being on your show. I missed you at Digital Dealer, just waved at you from the distance.
We did one of these. We're like, hey.
Yeah, we did one of those numbers, you know. And the king of reinsurance, the absolute monarch of F&I products. I used to say the mad Russian, but I don't even breathe that anymore. My good friend.
It's okay. You can say it. It's okay.
Okay. Max Zanan.
Hey, Jim. Listen, I'm no thought leader. You know, I just hang out with other thought leaders.
Well, when I went to Digital Dealer 2 weeks ago, all the wannabes in the world had to get a selfie with me. You know, I hang with Ziegler, you know. Benstock gets the same number.
No,
and the queen of BDC, one of the most brilliant women in the car business, Bobbie Herron. Hi, kid.
Hi, you. Hi, everyone.
Oh, you ready to
I'm going to get a crown. I'm going to get a crown just because I've always wanted a reason to wear one. And I never felt like I never felt strong enough in my confidence level to be like, you need a crown every day. But I think I'm going to just make that a thing.
We all know you have 6 of them in your closet. I've seen it.
I do, but I need a new one. You can't wear the same crown twice.
No. And a woman that I have met in the last couple months, and I am super impressed. BDC, what is your title? April Simmons from Horn Group. What's your title?
Corporate marketing and internet director. So I kind of oversee all things internet, all things marketing, all things sales, all things whatever else needs to be done.
Well, I'll tell you what, you have impressed me no end, and I loved your session at Digital Dealer. You are absolutely brilliant. I'm just glad you're part of the Dawg Pound today. Okay, let's get off with the cordialities here, and let's get right into what we're going to talk about. When I spoke at Digital Dealer 3 weeks ago, I have created more buzz in the industry than I initially even intended. I didn't think this was going to be like it was, but everybody's talking about what I'm talking about. And I talked about 20 things a dealer needs to change, a dealership needs to change post-pandemic. It's never going to be the way it was again. If you're sitting there waiting for it to get back to the way it was, man, you're sinking down in the tar pits, eating brown shriveled leaves off the trees. Ain't going to happen.
That's thing.
I'll tell you that right now. So anyway, we've been following that theme, and I've got some of the slides that I showed them. Bear with me, panel. This is where we're going to talk about today. Here it comes.
Well, while Jim's pulling that up, whichever one of you is the popularity
I pulled it up
contest
already.
winner, turn your fingers off, guys.
Okay. This is one of the things I talked about that really created a lot of buzz, a lot of stir, pissed off some vendors. Certainly others rolled with it. Are your technology vendors outdated and obsolete? Now, what do I mean by that? I go in dealerships and I see managers with their head down in the computer with 3 different screens with 3 different vendors that they don't even talk to each other. I mean, and God love Cox companies, but you don't even talk to each other. Excuse me. And some vendors crash at the end of every month. On the 31st, I mean, I can set Vin Solutions like clockworks. 'Cause sorry, guys. I mean, we joke about it, but why are these vendors crashing? Because they're just overloaded. You know, and some of the vendors are hiring third-party vendors to fill in the blanks because things they can't do. They're hiring video vendors. They're incorporating them into their technology, putting Band-Aids on what they can't do, were never designed to do. So where do we go from there? Let's look at this one. I'm saying you need to consolidate vendors. I'm saying you need to get rid of redundant services. You need to meet with your department heads, dealer general manager, and investigate how to use or not use the vendor's programs. Mr. Dealer, Mrs. Dealer, you are just in love with the representative of the company and you don't know what the hell the company does anymore. You've fallen in love with the representatives. You are not in love with the services or the results or the ROI. So yeah, I know I'm going to catch some shit about that. Okay, here we go.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, interview new vendors. The gatekeepers are keeping really fantastic people away from the decision makers. Now, Mr. Dealer, if you're too busy, you know, if you need to improve a couple swings on your golf and you can't see the vendors, maybe you can delegate that to another decision maker lower down the food chain. But somebody's got to interview every vendor that calls on you. You got to start looking at the possibilities that the current vendor you're using is not the company for you. Look at everything, schedule demos, talk to your department heads. That's what I'm gonna leave that there. And I want to open that discussion. Jason Harris, what did you get out of everything I just said?
Handful of things. Okay, so redundancy. Yes, there are a lot of systems that are redundant. There's a lot of systems that are doing a handful of the exact same thing. So that's a great exercise. I think any dealership out there listening right now does need to go through and audit every single one of their vendors, identify the 3 to 5 core things that vendor is bringing value to them, and make sure that they're not being duplicated elsewhere. That's a great thing. Look, as far as outsourcing, look, here's what happened the last 24 months. You know, dealerships figured out how to cut a lot of expenses, and guess what? So did vendors. Vendors had to maintain profitabilities. We had to cut a lot of expenses too. So you saw a mad rush to outsource a lot of efforts. Now, was that a good thing or a bad thing? I guess it just depends on how well they actually outsourced it. You know, as far as the technology stew, that's what I like to call it. You know, we have a pinch of this, a dash of the CRM, a chunk of that. You know, it's not only has to taste good to us, but it's got to taste good to our customers. So if there's dealers out there watching right now, take a look at those vendors and make sure those vendors have not just your goals at the center of their efforts, but the customers' goals at the center of their efforts. And I know, Brian, that's a big part.
Brian's jumping up and down over here. Brian, get in on this.
Well, you know, you have to reduce, eliminate, or justify many of every relationship you have with the vendors right now. And I think the challenge, guys, is that and ladies, we have these vendors have disparate objectives. They're all trying to solve for that, you know, online transaction, and each one of them has a little piece of it. Nobody's got it perfected, and we really should be, as dealers, demanding that we have a tool that takes us from cradle to grave and takes into consideration jobs to be done by the consumer. And the jobs to be done by the consumer is not simply buying the car, but it's much more than that. And in fact, those jobs to be done will be enhanced as we enter into and we go from the ICE age to the BEV age, as the jobs to be done is going to also include electrification of the customer's house to prepare for the car. And that's a way that we could potentially enhance.
That's new vendors. New vendors are going to come into the market.
Yeah, these old guys, I mean, I hate to say this, if these guys don't change, they're going to be eliminated. You know, I think it was Maslow who said, you know, you've got to learn to forget what you've already learned, learn, unlearn, and relearn. And so they've got to see that this game is changing. And frankly, most of the vendors are not even going to where the puck is, let alone to where the puck is going to be. The puck is going to be in a completely different direction. And so if you're working on your digital game now, you missed it. You know, it's a BEV game now, and those are pivot and get ready for that. And the new relationship that we're going to have with the OEM, you may find yourself sadly fitting in perfectly in a world that no longer exists.
April,
Brian,
jump in there. April, come on.
Okay, so first and foremost, I believe in cleaning out junk drawers all the time. So I 100% agree with what we're talking about here. But first and foremost, we buy a lot of stuff with vendors that nobody even knows what it is or how it's supposed to even be used. So before you do anything,
Wait a second. Wait a second. I did something with a 20 group one time that was hilarious. I was speaking to this 20 group in Lake Tahoe, resort community. And at the beginning of the 20 group, I walked around and I handed maybe 11 dealers out of the group an envelope. And the dealers said, "What is this?" I said, "Open it up." And it was a check from their own company to me, a fake company that I had made up, for $68. I had invoiced all these dealers and they didn't even know what they were paying for.
Yep.
Jim,
Yep.
Paul Singer did that many, many years ago. He was at a 20 group. And he telling me, he said, when he came back, he said, and they handed out checks and every dealership there cut a check to the false vendor. And I'm dying. Did I sign the check? Did I sign the check? He said, except for us. I said, oh, thank you.
So step one, you need to know what you're signed up for, right? And then you need to get everybody together in your entire organization, from your receptionist to your service advisors to your salespeople to your management staff, everyone together in a room, and then have everybody be a customer. Have them try to schedule a service appointment online. Have them try to buy a car. Have them go through the way they would go through it all. And then once you have all of that, you can start
Mystery shop yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
A lot. Mystery shop yourself a lot, to the point where you find the things that are working or the things that maybe would work, but you just had to set it up right. So you need to make a call to the vendor versus maybe cancel the vendor. Then once you figure all that out, you can start cutting what is not working, but you can't inspect what you expect until you know what you got. So that's step one. Before you do anything, you got to do that. Then you can start working on trying to build upon it, make it better. But let's at least get a foundation first.
Well, Max, climb in there. Now, you are a vendor. By the way, Jason's a vendor too. I don't want to leave him out.
Right. And I want to speak about something that you touched upon about interviewing vendors. This is from my personal experience. The best dealers are always available. They're always available. The worst dealers are never available. Right?
Max, when I first started my company, back in 1986, my vision was anyway. When I started my company in 1986, I got underwear older than you, but anyway, when I started my company in 1986, I envisioned that every loser in the world would hire me to get better. I had set some world records. I was well known. It was incredible. Guess who hired me?
The heavyweight contenders only.
The heavyweight dealers. I was doing business. I mean, the best wanted to get better. The losers wouldn't even see me.
Right. That's my point exactly. And another point, not to defend the vendors, but I'll give you a perfect example with X Time. A lot of dealers are signed up for X Time for their video walk around and service, and they just don't do it, but they keep paying for it. So the key for the vendor is just to get an automatic billing. That's all it is.
Max, that's actually a really good point. How many vendors out there? I mean, we're talking about trying to bring value to the dealership, but let's be honest with you. How many vendors out there are in business right now with the intent just to sell it to a Cox or a Reynolds for 40, 50, 60 million?
Right.
Let's just pump as much, MVP product that we can down these people's throats so that we can just ultimately sell it.
Rich Ackman just checked in. I got it on the bottom of the screen here. Now, Rich was a 20 group moderator. He's a brilliant man. He was the general manager for the Chop. I don't know if anybody remembers the Chop out in Las Vegas. I was consulting the store. He was the general manager, and we were selling 800 units a month on a 3-acre lot.
Well, and he's right. He's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
There are a ton of brilliant, innovative dealers, and we say this a lot on the show that that's not the only audience that we're talking to. So when we say things like dealers aren't doing this or they're doing this, we're not talking in a general capacity of like, wow,
I wanted to
everybody's
get
an
that
idiot.
out. Thank you, Bobbie.
Yeah, Richard, you're right. There are a ton of innovative dealers. We have some on the show right now. We do every week, and there are so many more out there that are doing a great job. Part of that, though, with what we're talking about with vendors, is that part of continuing to do a great job is continuing to reevaluate not only your spend, the onboarding that's used when you do it, the process that's followed. Otherwise, you'll find yourself in the position of, oh, do you do this? This is a great idea. You're sitting at a 20 group, you're somewhere, and somebody's like, this is a great idea. And you were like, how many times do you hear this? We used to. Oh, you don't anymore? Why not? Ooh. Because we went on autopilot and we forgot and we let things just run. And you have vendors out there who are OEM approved, who have packages, like Ford's a great example. Ford's packages, right, have 17 things in them that you don't need, that don't work for your store, but the only way to get the co-op is to do it that way. And so you might want to better.
The only way
all
to
of a
get
sudden,
the co-op.
somebody's signing up at a meeting somewhere for a
All right.
product that you already have in place.
Fire us
I
up.
know that vendor's
Wasted
crappy,
dollars.
but I get co-op.
Well, that's
and
probably
that's-
true. There's more innovative dealers than I think there are innovative vendors.
Agreed.
I've looked deep into a lot of vendor code in the past.
Yep.
There's a lot of crap out there, guys. Just a lot of crap. But you know, hey, if I can sell for $399 a month and it slips right underneath the controller's eyes and they just sign the check every month, or it's automatically billed to the credit card, what do I care?
Jason,
look at Micah's-
they're all busy creating the what do they call it? The MVP, the minimal viable product. And you know, the people that I know want outstanding. People that I know want world class, and
Yes.
world class is in that rarefied air up there where you're dealing with, you know, with the Chop Tobin or the Galpins or you know, many of the other fine dealers that are out there in the country that just do things completely different. They do things that are, you know, that they follow through on the things they say they're going to do. And for us, I want to have partnerships with the vendors. I don't want vendors. Vendors are like disposable Dixie cups. You throw them out when you're done with them. And I'd rather have partners that have skin in the game. And one example is one of the vendors that we have, our marketing team gets paid per car delivered. And so when we win, they win. And when we lose,
Which one is that, Brian?
it's Team Velocity, tier 10. We're paying them per car delivered, and based on also a cost per advertising per car. So there's two metrics that we have in there. And so, you know, in a month where we're not knocking the cover off the ball, they're going to have less return. And so that keeps them in the game. And then we're working together on the same objective, right? It's not they're working on their objective, which is to, you know, get a big enough audience and then sell it to a company. It's really to help us do a great job. And when they focus on doing that,
who is Team Velocity?
it's Dave Boyce and Sean Wolfington's guys. We've been with them for since 2008. And so, you know, I put all my eggs in one basket, carry it carefully. But we have those types of relationships with our key performers, you know, that we're going to hold them accountable. And when we win, we all celebrate together. We're doing business with Central BDC down in Florida. We've got they do a great job.
I got some good reports on those guys.
Yeah, you know what? They're like maniacs, crackheads on the phone. They just call, and I mean that in a great way. You know, the intensity that they bring to the game for us is super. And, you know, when you ask yourself how many customers are you going to call a month, and the number for us is 10,000, and you know it takes 2.5 calls to get a contact. So that's 25,000 calls. That might overload your existing BDC. So some of the stuff. I mean, you've got to build it to the math. And I'm really not committed to hiring 100 people in the BDC. We have a healthy BDC, but some of the those calls that we can make in mass and then follow through on the appointments, we outsource. And you know, it's a great partnership. When we finish anything less than first, I hear from the CEO of the company and says, you know, we're going to make sure we double up our efforts next month. And so those are the kind of relationships you want with vendors, if it's possible. And there are those out there. You know, you want them to have skin in the game.
What about new vendors, April? What have you seen on the horizon? And it's okay to mention a specific. I mean, I'm not endorsing or putting. We'll put some down, but yeah.
Well, one of the things, first of all, is that I kind of disagree with, which is to talk to every single person who knocks, because quite frankly, I couldn't do anything else. It would take
Well,
up
somebody should talk to them. I didn't say the decision.
You got to have a gate person out there, right? You got to have a gate
But
person to screen.
you have to have a strategy too.
Somebody
right?
has to talk to them. Somebody needs to look at everything that's coming in the door.
Correct. But one of
Every-
the things, I think there's a lot of value to things like a LinkedIn out there, though, where you have a lot of people with expertise, not just us on this panel, but there's a lot of other people out there. And so once you've isolated your pain points, right, or something that you feel like is not working as well as it should, you know, rather than turning to a list that the OEM provided you or talking to every single person, reach out and ask what the top 1% of dealers are doing. Ask them.
April.
That's
April.
the first
Jim
thing.
asked you for a name. Name a vendor. Name a
Name a
vendor.
vendor.
I'm going to
Name
throw
a
a name
vendor.
out there for discussion. Techion. Techion, I think,
Okay.
is doing a lot of things right. What do you guys think about Techion?
Okay, Techion right now, I'm nervous about. Okay, Techion scares me. Techion scares me.
They scare me, and I'm going to tell you why. Anytime a company gets too big too fast, their customer service always goes to crap. And so I have a major concern. I'm kind of one of those people that's going to sit back and watch it and make sure that it actually ends up being as good as they say it is. I've gone through the demos. I like it. I like it a lot. It looks very, very intriguing and exciting, but it looks too good to be true. And
one can say that the incumbents already have service like crap. So what do you have to lose? One could say
that is
not
true.
One thing about Techion that scares me.
The pain
One thing
of
about
onboarding.
Techion that scares me is that Techion is too cozy with the manufacturers already.
Yeah,
You boys crack me up.
But I'm going to give you a dealer pain point right now that is a big one for that specific one, because we're talking DMS and CRM in this case. And those are so big and so much of a pain point for a group. Once you start talking about, hey, I'm going to put something into 13 dealers and I've got to deal with the personalities of all these different people and all the pain points that come with onboarding something that big, you better make dang sure it's going to work for you before you go jump into that fish fry, because that's a big one. Some of your smaller vendors, I change them like underwear, but some of the other stuff, that big stuff like that, you got to be real careful before you jump. And so I'm real diligent on, I want to go try it in somebody else's store. I've already talked to somebody locally that put it in. I'm going to go try to break their system before I look at trying to put it into mine, on something that big. On little things, I work the OEM system because we have to. I'm not going to throw away free money. So when we talk about co-op dollars, I utilize this system to the best of my ability. So yes, I do. There's certain things where, I have to have certain vendors for those reasons. I hate that. It is my Achilles heel. I think that if you're a top 1% of dealers and you can prove that you've got brains, you should be allowed to spend your money how you want to. But, that's for a different conversation. Some of the vendors, and I'm all over the place. Every single one of my store has a different lineup of vendors. I have 2 Mazda stores that are the closest competitors, and they have different vendors, because I just keep trying until I find an ROI I'm happy with. And then I push them till they increase. So my vendor list is very, very long. It's very, very long.
Yeah.
Now, I've been very critical of cars.com. Now I know, Brian, you got a relationship with that. Hey, listen,
I'm still 50-50 with them.
I can go any direction with it.
And that's a good point, Jim, because cars.com works in some of my stores, and some of my stores, they're garbage and I have to cancel them. Car Gurus is another one. I've canceled them in half my stores, but in half my stores, they still perform.
I believe personally Car Gurus is against the dealer's best interest.
Of course they are.
So April, you got to choke them out when you say, of course they are, right? Okay, this is a winner take all. We're entering into a position where we're going to be facing off against the OEMs. We've got unprecedented change. And if you're not with me, you're against me. And, they started out great, $200, put all your inventory there, sell lots of cars. Then 2,000, then 10,000, then 20,000 with no justification because they could. Tell them to kick rocks, and they'll still list your inventory for free. Remember, they aggregate your inventory. Inventory dictates search. So the more of us give them cars, the more we need them. To heck with these guys.
I got them out of all but 2 stores at this point. I got them out of all but 2. So
You know what,
and that
though,
was a good one.
Kick rocks. That's the word track.
You got to jump in there, Jason.
No, you know what? I think a lot of times we end up choosing vendors for us, but not for our customers, and I see that happen a lot, right? System for my team. Well, you're honest with you, right? What is the best for the customer?
Yeah.
Make that decision. Work backwards towards defining the team that's going to actually execute on that piece of technology, and shit gets really real.
Yep.
Hey,
Max,
Jake,
what do you
when
think?
it comes to used
Max?
cars,
You know, guys, I think
providers?
my favorite vendor right now is Revolution Part, right? Because dealers, don't have enough inventory, and there's no need to talk about digital retail when you have 5 cars on the ground, right?
Sure.
But fixed stops, and I'm a big believer in fixed stops, is what going to save the dealer down the road, whether it's the OEM, whether we're going to enter a recession or a depression. And if you really want to master digital retail, you start with your parts department. And Revolution Parts, and believe me, I don't get paid for saying it. I'm not endorsing them. I just love their product. Revolution Parts allows you to sell the entire parts catalog online. They help you distribute that feed into Amazon, into eBay. You can even make money on shipping, right? So any dealer that's ignoring fixed stops in this inventory shortage environment is not doing themselves any favors.
We're talking about all the
and
vendors.
it's not like-
Max,
it's not
we're
controversial.
talking
I think
about every
everybody's
kind of vendor there
selling
is,
parts online.
Max. We're talking, I'm talking about uniform vendors. I said technology, but anybody that you're paying money to should be audited. If I bought a dealership today, job one is to fire every vendor. I just bought a new dealership. Nobody's coming along for the ride. Everybody's got to re-interview.
Not to interview every vendor. Yeah, interview every vendor, right?
I'm gonna fire every vendor figuratively and re-interview every vendor, and I'm also gonna check out. And I own a web domain right now. Find out what otherdealerspaid.com, because TrueCar was so interested in telling the consumers what other consumers paid. Let's find out what other dealers are paying the vendors. Because look at Jason. Jason's over there.
Right.
Find out what other.
You've heard of the Guillory Institute, yes?
Yes.
And the Guillory will do just that for DMS purchases. And the first time I used them was probably 17 years ago. And, I thought I was a pretty good negotiator. I thought I had a pretty good setup. And those guys were able to save us hundreds of thousands of dollars on our DMS contract. And they didn't say, this dealer paid that, but they could say, hey, here's the best in class. Here's the lowest price that they're paying. And we were able to really make much better decisions. And so your thought about what other dealers are paying, I think is a pretty good one. And I would add to what Max is saying. Max, I think you're right with very low inventory that online digital retailing has taken a back seat. And I think that's the big problem because, the barbarians are at the game while we're, in profit coma right now as dealers. The Apple out there and Polestar and many, many, many other electric EV manufacturers from China are coming in, and they're going to be all online. And then we're going to find we're playing catch up in our own industry. So, I do think that now the time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining, and profit-wise, the sun is still shining. So I think now is the time to enhance and perfect our online retailing in all departments, in all profit centers, new cars, used cars, parts, service, to make sure that the customer can visit and have your dealership visit them by accessing us on a cell phone.
But
Brian, let me ask you a question. Brian, how many cars are you delivering off-site to a workplace or a home?
I give you a great number. We just reviewed this. We started pickup and delivery for service in 2017, March of 2017. And by August, we were picking up 600 cars a month. No, that's not great. A year later, that was 1,900. A year after that, it was 3,000. To date, from 2017, it's 153,000 customer cars and generated over $53 million in profit without the people having to come to the store. So, I think, Max is spot on when he talks about focusing on fixed.
Please don't do it, Hubert. Please don't.
I think that's a great place.
Thank you,
that's a
Brian.
great place to go. But we've got to make sure that we take care of the other end of the house also. And the other end of the house is under attack.
So I'm being real quiet. I haven't said barely anything in this 30 minutes because I'm always fascinated by people's opinions on how we do marketing and what we do. And I would tell everybody the same thing, right? Micah comes on and says you need one standardized KPI when it comes to your dealer partners.
Well, that's sort of self-serving for Micah, isn't it?
Self-serving, but in that, right? Look, I'll give the disclaimer, and I'm going to say what I'm about to say. A dealership can do on their own. You don't need to hire me to do that, right? If you can't figure it out, let me know. But even from running groups for years and years and years in operations and doing marketing, because I get introduced as BDC, but look, I own a marketing company, but we don't have any products. See, we do marketing matchmaking. We take a product and we pair it to the dealership for what they're trying to accomplish and what processes and people they already have in place. And that is the key, people. You go to a 20 group, you go to a convention, you go to a meeting, and everybody's like, oh my God, this works so good. We're just slaying it. Because who's going to walk into a meeting and be like, dude, we kind of suck, right? Yeah, we got this product, we think it works, but we're not doing it right. So when you go to these conventions and you go to these meetings, hear about the product, but don't determine if it works for your store until you do a full demo of it. And like April said, you don't have time to do all those demos. You really don't. I demo every product that comes out and every vendor that reaches out to me over and over and over again.
Bobbie, I never said every decision maker needs to interview the vendors. Somebody needs to interview the vendors.
Yeah, I'm not talking about what you said. What I'm saying is, if you're smart in how you're doing this, if you have an April or you have a marketing company that you work with that manages your marketing, they're consistently demoing not just a product they've never heard of, but what is new about it and what's been added in, right? Because you have to consistently know what's going on, but you can't talk to 100 different people. So when you're going to 20 groups and you're going to conventions and you're networking, ask about a product that works and why, and then ask that other dealer what is the biggest failure they experienced during it. And if they can't answer you, they're not involved in their product because everyone has one.
Upstart, Prodigy, Darwin, frickin' Tech. I mean, come on. All the digital retail doesn't work yet.
Some of them work different for different dealers.
Digital retail doesn't work yet.
It depends on what your definition of digital retail is.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of murky waters come from, is that the definition of digital retail, what you're thinking of it as, which is we're going to sell a car completely online in an Amazon way. That isn't happening anytime in the near future, in my opinion, at least not in my world.
Right.
But consumer capabilities, we want to make it consumer friendly. That stuff is working, has been working, and most of us
consumers are only half buying the car, which I agree with. I think every dealer has to have it. I said in my speech, every dealer needs to have a digital retail vendor. Every dealer needs to have one.
There's exceptions.
Don't expect it's going to transact online because the consumers aren't ready to transact online yet en masse. It's an elite program. I mean, the manufacturers are so infatuated with Tesla, and they were sort of infatuated with Vroom and Carvana. That sort of went to the crapper, didn't it? But anyway, what are you laughing about over there, Jason?
I just love your passion, man.
Okay, well, jump in here.
When you said customers aren't ready to transact online, digital retail, and I just told you we've done over 150,000 services with customers and generated $53 million, 100% online. So I do think.
I'm talking about buying the car now. I'm talking about.
Now we could argue that it's just as complicated as arranging a service, but. It's consumers today. COVID has advanced digital retailing by 5 to 10 years.
Oh, absolutely.
I was in Europe, as you know, And I always think of the Europeans as being behind us and things. And I really got to take a look at tomorrow's newspaper, or actually next year's newspaper. And there's a lot of digital retailing going on. In fact, the OEMs are building it exclusively for digital retailing in Europe. Polestar and other companies are direct to consumer via digital platforms. And that, it can't help but to come over here. Now, at what level will that adaptation take place here? Well, that's going to be up to the consumer. But I think we have to have, and I'll use a terrible example, the Apple example. Apple doesn't care whether you buy it online or buy their product in store. They have a really good transaction either way, an excellent transaction either way. And I think that should be the aim of the dealerships, to be able to conduct business whenever, wherever, and however the consumer wants, from wherever the consumer wants to do it, and make it easy.
I admit, Brian, I admit I was sort of poking you there.
But that's the thing, right? Who's really doing a great job of transacting online? How do we even know if a customer does want to go through the whole follow through online? Because there's so very many few people even giving them the opportunity to do so.
Look,
I know that I would buy an entire
guys,
I keep
hearing,
I'm 41 years old.
When I hear my colleagues say this, I believe that we or they are in denial. They want to believe that. And I'm going to tell you this, when Apple comes out with a car, they're going to be selling those cars online and in store. And the consumers are going to be the ones, since it's a brand new product, they'll probably go touch it and feel it. And then once there are a couple on the road, they'll do what the rest of us are doing. They'll buy it right. You buy it right online with 100% confidence that it's the right product for you.
Well,
and maybe I'm different because I've been in automotive for so long, and a car is a point A to a point B. But I have zero interest in going to the dealership to purchase a vehicle. Absolutely zero. I would buy 100% of it online. I am not the only one who feels this way, and I am not 20 years old living in my parents' basement.
Well, the manufacturers are trying.
Bobby, I haven't been to a dealership to buy a car in 20 years. I bought a car from a dealer in Texas, and it got shipped to a dealer in Pennsylvania, and then it got shipped to me, and it came out of the box in my driveway.
Chris, I gotta do Chris. I don't know Chris. He's probably gonna be pissed at me when I'm done saying that, and this is okay. But that's bullshit. That is exactly what happens in our industry, where we go, you
pineapple
somebody's house because finance can't have the conversation. Oh my God, my gross just dropped in finance because they can't sell a warranty because they paid cash. Oh wait, what? Yes, true. You absolutely can, because the value of a vehicle is not dictated by what you slide a paper over and say to a customer. How did you buy the car? How do you own the car? How did you handle it? How is it parsed in your market? There's dealers right now that don't even have prices online, and they're still selling cars. Listen, everybody does it different, but there are all different kinds of customers. And while there will always be customers that want to come into the dealership.
You got him backing up now.
You know what? Jim, I'll back it up. I know what you paid for your iPhone. You got a fleet price. You paid full list each and every time. iPhone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 and 12. And if you have the 13, you paid full list each and every time online.
Every time.
But we believe that stuff, that if we do something different, we're going to lose out on the control that we have. And that is not true. There is a subset of buyers that people are missing. Carvana and Vroom couldn't even came in and tried if we would have just listened to the customer.
Bobbie, we're going off on a side subject. We only got so much time. I don't want to go there.
I get it, but
okay.
Then going back to vendors.
I want to stay. I don't want to go into gross, and I want to stay right on digital retail right now.
Let's talk about digital retailing. Digital retailing, that's funny, but did we skip the step about digital shopping? I don't know.
Yes.
It's right. We did, didn't we?
Yeah.
But I think everybody buys online. I think the decision, that trigger in your brain that makes you go from shopping and researching to buying, that actually happens online. Now, how you decide to actually execute on that decision that you've made to purchase, that can be different. You could decide to do it completely online and skip out the dealership. Maybe you do want to go in and touch it. It's like the Best Buy model. I love buying stuff from Best Buy. Why? Because they give me 3 different ways that I can actually execute the decision I've made to purchase. I could go in, touch it, feel it, smell it, and then, okay, here's my money. I'm good with it. I can take it home, right? I can actually decide to pick it up right at the dealership, or right at the store, so I don't have to wait for it, or I can just have it shipped directly to me. But I think the decision to actually make the purchase happens already online. We're just executing that decision within the dealership or not within the dealership.
Well, let's talk about the vendors now that do this. Darwin, Upstart, Prodigy is now Upstart. What other ones are out there? Come on, help me out.
Roadster.
Roadster.
Yes.
AutoFi.
AutoFi, I guess we fall into that. Yeah.
Car
You know,
now.
Car now. I don't think Car now is a digital retailer in the same sense that they are. April?
Aren't they all?
Yeah, I use Car now across the board.
I didn't say they weren't good. I just said they don't fit in that same category as the other ones.
That's who I use. Yeah, they do. That's who I use for my digital retailing.
Really?
Jim, I'm going to make a prediction. There's a product that our old friend Chip Perry's working on with A to Z Sync.
A to Z Sync. I talked about it in the speech.
I'll tell you right now, the technology that is driving that process is fantastic, and it's easily transferred to an online retail platform. They haven't done that yet, but we've got novices at our Acura store taking a transaction from A to Z, producing 17% higher gross at 12% less cost, and cutting the time of transaction down by 2/3. So that's
Chip Perry hired me.
That's a very easy process to mimic online.
Chip Perry hired me, and he and Brian Ali and Natasha flew to Atlanta and spent a day with me putting F&I into their program because that was not their strength at the time. So they paid me $10,000 to spend a day with me just to catch up on their digital. So I'm well familiar with A to Z.
And what I like about, I'm not here carrying water for A to Z, but what I like about the concept is its technology that guides the salesperson and the customer through the transaction. So they don't have the online portion of that yet. I'm just saying that a lot of the vendors mentioned here are getting close, right? And it really is not bifurcating or separating finance from the transaction, but being able to do that whole thing. And I liken it to the sport of curling in the Olympics. The job of the dealership is to help that puck, the customer, get down to the designated target, to sweep the friction out of the way. And I think that the truer and the better the product is, the easier the job is going to be for both the customer and for the dealership to get that customer to nirvana, to be able to conclude the transaction. And then what Jason said, I think, is completely valid. The Best Buy model, which is also, I think, the Apple model, is you've just got to make it easy for the customers to decide how they want to take delivery of the vehicle.
Now I'm going to bring it. I got to jump in there, Brian, because there's one thing that I've been really, really passionate about as far as my disdain for the digital retailing tools. And what it really boils down to is it's not their fault, but the CRMs. There's no communication between those two. Where you want me to have a conversation with the customer and be fully transparent. We're trying to do that. But the way that it comes into a CRM, it looks like stereo instructions to these sales reps who are trying to read, 19 different leads that came in because customers don't, go A to Z in one linear shopping.
And April,
I know you have 27 bad duplicates and then a final.
That's why I had mentioned Techion, and I don't use Techion. But imagine if Jim had Elon Musk on this panel, and imagine if someone asked Elon Musk, "Hey, Elon, which DMS do you use, CDK or Reynolds and Reynolds?" It would be a joke. Or if they asked him, "What CRM do you use?" It'd be a joke. Or what if we had Tim Cook here and we asked him the same question? It's a joke because all of those should be housed together, right? That CRM and DMS need to be put together and form what we call an IMS, an intelligence management system.
Yeah, what we call a monopoly.
Where the intelligence helps us help the customers better. And somehow we haven't gotten there yet.
That's because
there's one other thing. One other thing. We have to be able to communicate with the customer at the zero moment while they are still on the website. When you're in the decision making, the first time that customer pushes a button, first time they land on a specific vehicle, we need to have a button that says, "Would you like to communicate with us right now?" Video like Zoom, all of a sudden we're talking to the consumer with video chat right now. And the person that does that also has to have the ability to maneuver through the website, like I was just screen sharing a minute ago. where they
Jim,
can actually,
The
yes.
problem, the
talking
problem
about
with that is
you're
the
talking about a
Wi-Fi
single
solution, though.
source
That's the
of
problem.
truth. The single
Yes,
source of truth.
yes,
For that.
yes.
Not multiple. There's only one truth, and you need a single source for that truth. You can't be
Yes,
getting a piece of the truth
yes.
from here and a piece there and a piece there. Single source of truth. An IMS.
Adam Ross is making some great comments.
I know. I love Adam Ross. Hi, Adam. So
What's
I
up,
just
Adam?
want to throw something out there. Two things in what we're saying, right? One, okay, yes, we need these tools to be able to communicate properly. So vendors, get your shit together and go sell your product to the CRM so they'll integrate it. And if not, get your advisory board together to help you. You need a panel of influencers. That's how you get it done.
Well, the single source that Brian was just talking about, I've been
That's not what I'm
talking
saying.
about this for 15 years.
The data was
I've got this in writing where I did this in speeches 15 years ago, and the industry still hasn't produced it.
Well, look at what you guys just said about Cox in the beginning. If everybody owns the same product and it goes through an ISM, Brian, do you mean that you think one person needs to monopolize and own it, or do you mean that they need to integrate and collaborate? Because those aren't the same thing.
They'll never integrate and collaborate because they have disparate objectives. They all want to be your single source, and so the APIs, they don't play nice together. But I think that if Apple, if when I log on to Apple, I think that they have everything they need to know about me and every transaction I've ever conducted with Apple available at the ready. And that's not being managed by a person; it's being managed by an intelligence. Honda has over 100 million customers in their database, yet the information seems at the OEM level to be siloed, right? The finance is separate from news, separate from used, separate from parts, separate from service. And so, we want to protect the private information of customers, but shouldn't we know that people that have this do that? And wouldn't that be great every time we're looking at doing a transaction?
I 100% agree with that. I think it's terrifying to think about all of the data from every dealer going to one vendor, though.
But can you? Well, it's not. But it's an intelligence. I don't want to call it a vendor. It's an intelligence. And wouldn't it be great if the OEM that we work with, when a customer was in our database or entered into our CRM, they gave us here's the most likely scenario, what you can do to satisfy that customer, whether it be parts, sales, or service. And people like this tend to do that. That information is available, just being able to access it, right? When you change your front brakes, there's for a 2018 Accord, there's an algorithm that determines pretty accurately when you're going to need rear brakes. Shouldn't we have an ability to ping the customer well in advance of that to set up that next appointment, whether that's a year from now, 18 months from now?
Should we be using AI efficiently to provide the best experience possible?
I want to go back a direction. I want to go back a direction
that we're using for other people, but I just want to get one thing out, because I think every time we talk about vendors,
you've never gotten one thing out.
I haven't finished one sentence of this entire show, not one time actually. It's always fascinating to me with our audience and with our panel that anytime we decide to talk about vendors or marketing, it always goes to digital retailing. Digital retailing is a conversion tool, not a marketing tool. Let me say that one more time for the crowd in the back. Digital retailing is a conversion tool, not a marketing tool, at least as of how it stands now. Now, some of those companies provide marketing components that will use an algorithm to bring a customer back to you. But there are way better, way less expensive, and way more effective ways of doing that, especially if you're going to use a digital retailing tool so that you can land them there. See, that's the magic of a vendor in marketing is, where did you start? What was the journey? Where did they go? And then how do you handle it when they get there? That's the magic bullet. And if you're not doing all of those things, it's not going to work to the level that it should.
I love messing with Bobbie. Hey.
I know.
I think everybody likes messing with.
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna back Bobbie up on that one because I get it a lot when we start going through ROI now and stuff. They're like, hey, can we find some more of those leads? I'm like, that's a conversion tool. That's why we look at our Google Analytics over here to see what actually drove that traffic over to this. So yes, I 100%.
Brian brought up something a minute ago about A to Z sync, and I don't want to go away from that right now. A to Z sync, where the salesperson apparently handles the deal from handshake to taillights, does the F&I and everything. Well, I was adamantly against this for years. There's videos online of me teaching Foursquare, for instance sake. A million views, and some of them are recent. So what I'm looking at right now is A to Z Sync still has managers in the background ghosting the entire deal. That's what won me over. They didn't eliminate the managers. The managers just ghost the entire deal in the background. The customer doesn't see the manager's participation in the deal. And, you know, I advocated years ago that I like the CarMax formula better than the A to Zinc formula, A to C Sync. CarMax years ago, and I have this in writing 15 years ago, that we should go to that, where the salesperson takes the customer to a point, introduces the customer to a manager, and the manager in one sitting with one menu does the entire transaction on the computer, signs up everything in one sitting. Okay, more managers. Let's let you
got a capacity issue there, Jim. You got a capacity issue there. I think A to Z has evolved from that model. You're basically talking line or closer, and and that's effective. But A to Z Sync gives me 17 people that can conduct a transaction on my accurate showroom floor from like you said.
Who types up the paperwork and does the physical signing?
Salesperson.
Okay.
And you eliminated the bottleneck. You eliminated, and they want to get on to the next transaction. So you've got a built-in speed factor there. And I was against it, but I was trying to anticipate, as Gretzky said, where the puck is going to be in the future. And if I'm looking at Apple as a primary competitor, it's hard for me to see Apple having TO managers, gate men, delivery coordinators.
I don't see that.
I don't either. So
I taught it at one time.
And I think that there's when Chip Perry got involved, I became interested because there's a lot of smart with Mr. Perry, and he's I think he's got a lot of that stuff right. So it's something that we started out with on one team, one of 4 teams on a showroom floor, then 2, then 3, then 4, and I believe in show me, don't tell me what it can do, and it proved out in the Acura store, and we're going to migrate it to the Honda store. And
I sort of figured I've been reading some of the things you wrote, and I see that Chip Perry hired.
When we've got a delta of 29% increase in net per transaction, when you look at 29% of the gross that a store the size of our store is bringing in, it's pretty significant. And so if we can get anywhere near the productivity there, we're gonna have a really good outcome.
Chip Perry hired me 30 years ago when he started autotrader.com. He hired me to train his field crew how to sell to dealers. If you could imagine.
I have to make a quick point about CarMax. I think what made CarMax successful, the fact that they didn't come from car business. These guys came from Circuit City, with a clean slate, trying to figure out how to compete with car dealers, and they didn't do it the way car dealers are doing it. And I think Brian's point, dealers that are in denial about digital retail, will pay the price, right?
Who's reverbing there?
Not me. So all I'm saying is that maybe we have to look at it from a car dealership perspective and look at it from a digital retail perspective, because consumers are digitally consuming everything, right? They don't differentiate between cars and toilet paper, right? It's convenience and transparency. That's what makes them, press buy.
You've got to leave. Max, you're so right. You're so right, because the incumbents are, we're stuck with our ways of doing it. And how many people have told me, well, you're not going to be able to get the F&I numbers, with one person handling it. And we're not getting the F&I numbers. We're getting better F&I numbers, and our F&I numbers are, statistically.
You're welcome.
Pretty strong. Well, yeah, you built it right. And Natasha, well, there's a lot of smart with that young lady.
A lot of smart, Natasha. And like I said, they hired me as a consultant to help them, and they were already strong. They got stronger.
Connor, the average consumer will not remember the salesperson, because the salesperson will likely not even pick up the phone to thank them for their purchase. And that's the truth.
Okay. Let's talk about what other vendors have we not talked about. CRM. I mean, customer relationship management. I mean, that is supposed to be what it does.
It implies that you have a relationship already built. That's the problem. It implies that there's a transaction or relationship already built. I mean, the system is flawed right from the gate because we're not using it that way. You know, we're using it to create the relationship, but the system's designed to manage the relationship. The relationship doesn't exist.
How many times have I told a salesperson at the sales desk in the old days? How many times have I told a salesperson, why did we hire you? Because we suspected you had a personality. Get in there and use it. Excuse me.
It's hard to label a vendor that's really good because so many of them are really good with different types of dealerships. So many of them do really well with a hybrid process or a sales process. But most of the time when, in my experience, and I've been doing marketing as a dealer for a long time, in my experience, the majority of the time when a product fails, it's not typically the technology. It's the onboarding, the process, or the people, the training, the things that have happened. Yes, there are failure points in these products, but not every product is made for everybody. Some markets do better on Car Gurus Anonymous than they do on regular Car Gurus. Some markets do better with a digital conversion tool and true merchandising than other ones are going to with a spin car tool. So it's why it's easy for us to talk about vendors that we don't like instead of ones that we do. I would say universally.
No, I said I was looking for both sides of that story.
Well, I would easily say that for SEO, my number one vendor, my go-to vendor is Search Lab with Gifford. I do not typically name a vendor that I think is going to universally be great for everybody, but they are definitely one of them. It is impressive. The product works. The team is small for customer service. So when you have a problem, it's handled quickly and identified. And that's the experience that I've had with them. But in terms of naming other vendors out there, I could name a lot of consultants I think do a really great job and a lot that don't on helping a dealer come to terms with it, because a lot are smaller boutique style dealers that aren't large, that don't have the internal capacity to do that. But I struggle with it with the vendors because I've watched them do a great job or a shit job.
Hey, Bobbie, remember the things that made an E-Leads great? It was Hugh Hathcock. In my opinion, if I picked up the phone, Hugh took care of the problem. We got in his plane and came here. Sean Wolfington in the early days of BZ, and then later on with Tier 10. David Spisak with a reverse risk. David flew out here, made sure that my team had immersion in the product, that we knew it, that we were, that our fingerprints were all over.
I like Hathcock's new programs with the window stickers.
But the damn guy, right? He parachuted out with a hell of a lot of money. And he still got that passion, right, to have his hands on what he's doing. I got mad respect for a guy like that. His last year, before he sold E-Leads, he was at the booth working like he was a first-year salesman, working with customers and working in the booth. And I remember saying to a colleague of mine, I go, look at that son of a gun. He doesn't need the money. And he was working his tail off. And
those relationships are key to, especially when you're building something. I mean,
but he was done building it. It was built, and I felt that was really. I didn't feel like I had a vendor. I felt like I had somebody that, hey, he's going to solve my problems and make my job easier. And then, of course, CDK, which is where technology goes to die, has taken over, and there's no passion behind it. Yes, that is a graveyard for technology.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Vin was the same way in the beginning, right? And we're going to run out of time, so I won't go into my Vin rant, but it was the same way. When Stapleton
Vin was incredible in the beginning.
And Mo Zahavi was there. That was the relationship.
Well, that's because we bought technology that tastes good to us, not necessarily tastes good to our clients.
That's right.
So I think once the technology,
we need a sticker that says that. We need a sticker case.
Okay, as we wind down this has been an incredible broadcast. It's too bad we haven't got another hour, but we don't. So anyway, Jason Harris from Matador in Canada. My God, awesome. What part of Canada are you in, big guy?
Toronto.
Yeah, you're not really Canada.
That's somewhat civilized up there.
You're in North Detroit. North Detroit. I mean, I've been trying to get the government to invade Canada for years. We need to take over.
Who wants it?
Canada's our safe place up here. We go there to stay out of trouble. So
I try to explain to people in the U.S. that there's equally as many dealerships in Texas. There is this country of Canada. They just don't quite understand that one.
I
Yeah,
love
but
the way
there's-
Canada
there's
works
no
in their
people up
dealerships.
there.
It's so different.
Brian Benstock, thank you for being on this broadcast. It was
Great
a
to be
heck
with
of,
you guys.
it
Good
was a
seeing
heck of a
everybody.
lot
Max,
of fun.
I'm going to continue following you on Instagram for your politically incorrect but absolutely spot on posts in your stories.
Thank you.
Love it.
Oh my gosh. And of course, April, I've been calling you April Horn lately. I just,
It's all right.
April,
I
That's
mean,
your
my
maiden
branding's
name.
working.
April Simmons from Horn. Thank you for being here today. Bobbie, always great to hear from you. And your enthusiasm is incredible on this
Thank
show.
you.
I just love what we did. Well, listen, everybody. Oh, by the way, Max, you did a good job as the resident contrarian. Thank you.
Jason, let's get together for a podcast, brother.
Absolutely. I'll reach out.
Later, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.